Art is very important to our congregation, important to our worship, and important to our ministry here. And I found this quote that I just wanted to sort of set the tone for today. It's by Megan Mitchell, who is a Yale Divinity School graduate. And she wrote these words: "Art is about making space, both physical and mental, for listening, searching, and expressing. Art cultivates the ability to imagine a future and to transcend the present moment. This is inherently hopeful." In her poem, Upstream, Mary Oliver writes, "Attention is the beginning of devotion. Attention is the beginning of devotion." Art gives us the space for attention, which looks quite a lot like prayer. That's what the world needs now: space to take notice of each other, for our own souls, and the still small voice of the Lord who calls but will not force us to hear if we do not desire to listen. So we are here to listen, not only with our ears, but also with our eyes today, to listen to God through art, to ponder beauty and creation, and to learn from international artist and Atlanta native Jill Steenhuis how her soul connects to God through her art. And I pray that God will bless you in our time together. Just a few housekeeping things to take note of. Attendees are all only in view mode, or in view only mode. You'll be able to see Jill and the panelists, but your audio and your video are off. We want you to sit back and enjoy the presentation. But if you have questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen. Don't use the raise hands. We're not going to use that today. We'll use the Q&A button. And Jill will be answering our questions on technique as it comes up in her painting. Some of her questions she'll address in the Q&A session after her presentation. And then some of them she will answer in her live stream that you can find on her Facebook page. Her live stream takes place on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. And I know she'll share a little bit more about that. But now I'm going to turn it over to Lillian Ansley, who is a Peachtree Road member, and she is also one of the co-founders of the Olmsted Plein Air Invitational, and I know she'll share a little bit about that with you. But again, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm so excited that we're able to share this today. Lillian?
Thank you, Leslie. It is just a dream to be here and to sit here seeing my friend Jill Steenhuis and my friend Leslie Watkins, and we're talking about the healing power of art. And it's one of the reasons why my co-founder, Andy Hall, and I visualize this event in a city like Atlanta. 30 of some of the most prestigious artists from around the country come and paint outdoor, free to the public. The public can experience it, they can participate in it, they can be in awe. Artists express with their paintbrush, even in these very uncertain times of our pandemic and the looting that has actually happened in our city. Art has a healing property, and it is so exciting to see the magic that can happen and unify people through art. Today, just a little bit about Olmsted Plein Air Invitational, which usually is a 7-day event in early spring. We reimagined it this year, and artists painted, sheltered in place as they could to present a beautiful body of work for people to view, be inspired by, dream by, and if they're so inclined, purchase. You can view this art on our website, www.olmstedpleinair.com. We're going into the competition phase. These artists, yes, they're competitive and they are competing. So for the next 45 days, their competition paintings will be revealed. There are almost 300 paintings when you go to our website and look at the gallery catalog. Later this week, 3 judges from around the country will announce the awards. That will take place this week. Wednesday night, they will be revealed. Thursday night, the awards will be given, and you can find out how to participate in that virtually at our website. So let's get to why we're here today. To experience Jill's creative expression. I've had the privilege of actually taking a workshop by Jill here in Atlanta. I felt like it was an important part of my due diligence to understand the whole plein air expression. It's got to happen quick because the light changes and it changes fast. That first encounter and meeting with Jill evolved into a beautiful friendship over the past 6 years. Jill, this is Jill's 5th year being in Atlanta, participating in the Olmsted Plein Air, and I had a surprise birthday visit because of Jill to her beautiful studio in France. So, with no more delay, I'd like to throw my baton to my friend, amazing international artist, Jill Steenhuis.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's amazing that having arrived in the south of France 40 years ago, I am able to be right here with you in Atlanta, Georgia right now in 1980. It would have been a science fiction movie to say that I could be this close to you all, and it kind of makes me feel warm inside in my heart and makes my roots tingle to know that you're there here with me. I'm going to begin with my creative process by communicating with you more through my paintbrush strokes. My language is more visual and more with paintbrushes and strokes going onto the canvas than it is with words. So my first communication will be through the visual experience. But I do want to prep you with letting you know that as I create, I receive nature through my senses, and I paint very, very fast so that what I receive from what I'm seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, feeling, it ignites my inner poetry and it goes straight out onto the canvas without passing through the intellect. If I calculate, it is miscalculation. If I go straight to the canvas with my heart and soul, then a new poetry is created from what I'm seeing of this bouquet. So today in the south of France and all of France, it's Mother's Day, and I am a mother of 3 sons. So I have received these flowers today, and the one beautiful rose in the very center was given to me by my husband this morning. So I thought I would bring out my bouquet. And so it has meaning. And art, when we paint, has a purpose. And now my cat has jumped onto the table to be part of the painting. See, nature is always giving forth its mysteries. This has never happened before, but she's decided to be part of my painting session for the moment. We'll see what happens next. She may move away. But I know you must wonder how it's going to be. And as I paint, I've been given many, many lessons from Cézanne and Van Gogh, and they painted all over the canvas, not just in one spot, but the warms are answered by the cools, the negatives are answered, the verticals are answered by the horizontals. And so I paint the negative space to give birth to the light. And the light is often the subject. So here we go. And the other thing I wanted to say is that it's, for me, going back to what Leslie's beautiful reading was about, I think painting is a prayer in itself, because we are communing with our Creator. And our Creator gave us this and gave us life, and it comes together. And what comes out of it, the painting, is a gift, half human, half divine. This is that contemplative, meditative thing that wakes up that gift. So it's similar to fishing. We go out and we fish, and if we come home with a fish, then we were given the gift. And so I hope I will come home with a fish in this painting today.
Jill,
Yes,
can you tell me what your medium it is you're using to get such a liquid feel and move the paint around like that?
here is my medium that is a mixture of poppy seed oil, about 60% birectified turpentine, and 40% poppy seed oil, which I use instead of linseed oil because linseed oil dries faster, and I like the wet on wet process. So, and also it's more transparent. So I've always used the poppy seed oil.
Thank you. Jill, we have a question asking if you, did you get a degree in art, or how did
I
you
did.
come?
I got a degree in studio art at Sweetbriar College in Virginia in 1980 with the studio art degree in my pocket. 2 weeks after graduation, I left for the south of France because my father gave me the gift to seek out my passion, who was Paul Cézanne. So I came to the south of France to see the mountain that Cézanne painted over 100 times. And I was just so keen on his work and on his mountain because the mountain spoke to me, spoke to my heart from having gone to Camp de Soto on Lookout Mountain, which is the same camp my mother went to. And a year after she died, my father sent me and my sisters to that camp. And thank goodness for that camp. My life was saved. My faith began there and I never veered away. And so this painter who painted the Mount Saint Victoire, the mountain, spoke to me in the art history classes. I said, this painter knows what a mountain is. He painted the mountain in all its spirituality, and all the goodness that I had gotten from Lookout Mountain at Camp de Soto was in my heart. And that led me into understanding the depths of the spirituality of Cézanne's painting. So I came here in 1980 on June 16th, and on June 18th, I met a French guy who is my husband now. 40 years later, almost to the day. Our anniversary is coming up. So that's a bit of the story, but you'll hear more of the story a little bit later. So you can get your questions ready. You can see how my brush picked up a color I didn't expect. Slid into a color I didn't expect, but that's okay. It can be something beautiful and unexpected.
Jill, do you equally, excuse me,
Sorry.
broke the
Go ahead.
concentration. I'm sorry. First of all, you have several questions from people that used to be campers with you, by the way. So I want to
so
say
happy.
hi. But I wanted to ask if you enjoy, has come up, plein air and studio work equally well.
I do. And plein air is giving, I take what I get out there. I go down and I look and I hunt and I have an idea that I'm going to paint at the sea or going to paint the garlic pickers out in the fields. If I see them the day before, I'll come back the next day. Or if I'm going to paint the aqueduct at sunset, I love to paint the aqueduct at sunset because think of it. People think in reality that a stone aqueduct that's been there for over 200 years is there solid stone all the time. Well, every 24 hours, that solid stone is obliterated by the sun and the stone melts and the light comes through it. And it just shows you that what you think is reality is not reality. So I love to go into that spirituality of letting go, letting go, letting go. We let go of the things we're holding on to so tightly because that seems to be the correct reality and the way that things should be. But in painting the aqueduct and seeing it completely, the stone disappears with the sun coming through it. And it teaches me to let go. And so out there in the landscape, I receive things like that. In the studio, just like Van Gogh said, I'm really wanting to discover the color yellow. It's so elusive. So he set up a still life of yellow sunflowers with a yellow background, and he painted the warm yellow coming forward out of the cool yellow. And so the still life painting is a study of color sometimes. And sometimes I'm inspired by a color on my palette as I prepare my palette. And it could be a wild and crazy red or color that I haven't used in a long time. And it inspires me. So I can set up a whole still life having to do with that color. So I create the composition and the color. And then I set about transposing it into my language of brushstrokes when I'm in the studio. So that's, to me, I guess that's the biggest difference. It's a lot about color in the studio and a lot about just what God gives us out there in nature.
Wonderful.
I think I'm close enough to the end of the painting to be able to say it's done. My mentor says a painting is in process as long as it's beginning. The moment that it is no longer beginning, being created, then you must stop. Because then your intellect steps in and it tries to fix this and fix that, and suddenly it has fixed out all of the mystery that was there when you weren't thinking. So the moment you catch yourself, Cézanne says, the moment I catch myself thinking, patatras, je fous le toile par terre, I throw the canvas on the ground. So I have to prevent myself from thinking, and I think at this point, I should stop. What about this stroke that came in by mistake? Should I fix it? I think I should wait. It might be what Eugene Delacroix, the icon of the greatest painter of France, the Rembrandt of France, Eugene Delacroix said, I look at my paintings and I see that the genius in my paintings is all the mistakes I made. So these comments play in my head to keep me from fixing things and allowing things to go too far into my intellect. Okay, well, this is it for today. Tomorrow morning, I'll come back and look at it, and I may give 5 or 6 more brush strokes to it when I sign it. Otherwise, it's the painting of today. All right, I'm going to put down my brushes, and I will clean them later on. Of course, oil, I could clean them tomorrow morning because the oil will not dry between now and then. Taking off the gloves is nice. Okay. So my Mother's Day gift from my sons has now been transformed into a painting. It can live longer than the bouquet, and it speaks of the gift of my sons and the gift of being a mother. All right, well, how does a Buckhead girl end up in the south of France? You must be wondering. Growing up in the 60s in Atlanta, in the 60s and 70s, it was an age of extreme contradictions in values, lifestyles, philosophies, and ways of life. But it gave me the grit to risk all, to survive in non-comfort, to seek the unknown. How I navigated through it all was what made me the person I am today. But today, look where we are today. Today, I was thinking how in sorrow and in conflict, we can actually create on a deeper level, whether it be painting, writing, or playing music, more so than in a period of frivolity and comfort. How can I create a work that will speak to humanity, going from no inspiration to inspiration requires something, an urgency, a jolt, a catalyst, a sensation from the soul. Sorrow and suffering are the fertile soil needed to wake up in the soul a compassion that has been there all along, but was born dormant. Creating a compassionate peace, full of the mystery of life, full of hope, by a light emerging from darkness. Look at that white flower in my still life. Did you see? I forgot it. And then I saw it. I saw it in the process of creating. And I thought, what am I going to do? White is so hard to put on the canvas and not get it all muddied up with all the other colors with the paintbrush. Well, the thought came, and I picked up my palette knife and threw it in there, and it came about. That's light emerging from the darkness. It's a process that is not a copy of nature, but something that's happening in here that needs to come out. But sometimes we're fearful to let it come out. Well, the first thing that we have to do is get over that fear. Get over the fear of the death of the canvas. Get over the fear of the death of our lives. And when we create and we experience what's going on in the world, the sicknesses and the sorrow, the death, and the sorrow and sadness for how far we have not come since I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia in the 60s and 70s. I thought that what Martin Luther King had done would last for an eternity. I thought that what he had done would remain with us forever. It certainly did with me. And yet I see that we have to learn the lessons all over again. But we don't have to look at that right in the face, the storm. We can look at Christ right in the face, and he will be walking to us across the water and extending his hand, and we lift our hand to his hand, and he will bring us up to him so that we can heal. And in that process, we can be painting. The painting can be our prayer to get there. In my journey of painting, the creative process is a meditative way. Creating has to do with the soul. You've just seen a glimpse of my creative process. I guard my heart and mind from the clutter, silencing the world in all its gory details and excesses. I enter nature. The ritual of preparing my palette opens the way. When one sets out to create, the notion is noble. But where does one go to from there? The whiteness stares at one with blankness. In the silence of the morning comes the unexpected. Far more than one could have imagined begins to take place. A dark, cool color defines a horizontal shadow and is answered by a warm vertical. The dialogue of shadows takes off, giving birth to the light, the rhythm of the brushstrokes onto the canvas. Go, flying in every direction. And then it comes into being, and we are surprised. We are surprised by the new creation. And we have come to a place where we were no longer aware of time, no longer aware of ourselves. And somehow there's a connection with all humanity in that moment where we have this deeper sense of love that comes forward. And the painting process of creating has put us in communion with the Lord our God. So he's come to our succor. But what about you? Where are you in all of this? You are with me in this creation. You are there waiting for the new. You are part of this wordless dialogue. With your own sensations, with your own soul, you contemplate my work and you complete the phenomenon. You go away on a higher plane, having received my poetry and having given your own poetic reaction to complete the dance. Hope abounds, and we face our daily struggles with new strength. If I finished the painting, if I did a perfect copy of nature, there would be nothing for you to do, and there would be no interaction with you as in my dance. It's kind of like Hemingway's story when he was asked to do a story in fewer than 10 words. He said, here it is, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. I'm sure some of you have finished that story, and I'm sure that all the stories that have come forward spontaneously from those 6 words are infinitely different. That is creating, and that is having the reader be part of the dance of the writer. And my art is hoping that you will become part of my dance. So I leave the brushstrokes in such a way that I have maybe left it slightly unfinished for some people. And hopefully there's a mystery there that you can enter and make it your own and have your own poetic reaction to it. But how did I get to this point? 40 years of painting on a daily basis. Well, I did arrive in France 40 years ago, and it was having to do with the goodness and the love that I received from Camp de Soto. And I was always sad to leave the mountain and go back to the valley below of Atlanta, Georgia, and school and daily activity. And so one summer, the last summer that I was a camper at the last spiritual retreat, the counselor said to me, "Don't cry, don't worry. Just take the mountain with you." So I did. I took the mountain with me, and I went off to Sweetbriar College, 4 years of a art degree. And that mountain stayed with me as a strength and gave me courage. I knew that whatever happened out there, outside, in that, following that broad boulevard, I had learned from camp that the narrow path was the way to go. And the narrow path was on that mountain. And the mountain took me to France. Because I had seen Cézanne's paintings in my art history classes and at the National Gallery, and I related it to those mountain paintings in a real way, from soul to soul. So off I went in the summer of 1980 to the Leo Marchut School of Painting and Drawing that taught in the tradition of Cézanne in Aix-en-Provence. And when I got here, I saw the mountain. I climbed the mountain. I drew the mountain. I painted the mountain. I became the mountain, and the mountain became me. And Cézanne became my mentor. And at the same summer, I was led to understand the deep, the real truth of Vincent van Gogh. And the way that I feel that that mountain in my soul brought me to X was to help me to understand Vincent van Gogh because of the conflicts in the 60s where my mother had taken her life. And my father raised the four of us on his own. Then I needed to know about Van Gogh. I needed to know about his art and his secrets and what his language that he was giving to us. And I received it. And I grew. And all of these things were part of the whole destiny that my life was meant to be. And day by day, I prayed for the next day to take me to the next step. And the courageous thing was on August 9th, 1980, I was to get on the airplane to come home to Atlanta, Georgia, and see my family, and then go be a stockbroker at Wheat First Securities in Charlottesville, Virginia. But just an hour before my train left on that day, I decided to call my father, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning for him. And I said, "Daddy, it's Jill. I'm calling you from the post office in Aix-en-Provence." And I said, "Daddy, do you think I can stay here and go to the Marchut School for the following year?" After a long pause, and I knew I had just broken his heart, he said, "Well, Jill, it's your life, it's your decision." "Well, Daddy, my train's leaving in 1 hour, so I don't have that much time to think about it. So I'm just going to say, I'm staying. That was a big turning point in my life. And I don't know if I was just extremely naive or very, very courageous. But it happened that I stayed. And I have been here ever since, following my path as a full-time painter. And it is a very communicative way to be with other people. When I do go to the States every 6 months to do a tour. Of course, this year my tour was canceled and I was not able to participate physically in the Olmsted Plein Air Invitational, but I'm here today with you all in this new way. And who would have known 40 years ago that this would be the way that we could be together? And so the courageous leap back in the early 80s took me into a solitary life of creating. But then it became a way that I could come to the States and be with you all and travel from one end to the other and speak about my art and my God and how we all, man, nature, and the Lord, we work together to bring into being a new poetry on the canvas that can speak to you. So this is my story, and it's my destiny, and everyone seems to have a destiny that is remarkable if you can let go enough to let it happen. And I would like to read this last piece about my experience of Van Gogh, where after my father died, and I was so sad after his death in 1998. And I went back to Atlanta, and that year was a very difficult year. But I learned that Van Gogh had written, "I want to paint paintings that give comfort and hope to those who suffer like music does." In his painting of the sower, his message of comfort and hope embraced me in a moment when I needed it the most. 10 months after my father died in 1998, I was standing before Van Gogh's sower at the Musée d'Orsay, doing a drawing of it. The message, "Behold, the sower went forth to sow." Even though it was in the dead of winter, when there is nothing around to show any hope that anything will grow, that austere time of the year, which was also an austere, somber time of my life. Standing in front of Vincent's painting, the message came through soothingly, gently. "Jill, one must continue to sow seeds, whatever it is that one does, whether it is painting paintings, teaching, healing, or being a mother. Even though it may be the winter time of your life, you must keep going through faith." The courage and faith it takes to sow seeds when nothing seems to be growing is monumental. But look at Van Gogh. He kept painting paintings even when no one bought his paintings. Each painting was a seed that fell into the ground. And 110 years later, I stood before this painting, drawing from it. And when I looped the drawing stroke around the back of the sower's head to represent the sun rising from the earth, goosebumps stood up on my skin as I realized the deep message that Van Gogh was revealing to me at the very moment when I needed it the most. The sun is also meant to be a halo, saying that if you can go on faith and take courage and continue to sow seeds, springtime will come, and those seeds will grow, and in the summer, they will be harvested. Art can heal, not just in creating it, but also in viewing it. Art exists to make one taste the eternal. May my soul touch your soul, and may you be taken beyond your daily struggles and be given a taste of the eternal. Thank you for joining me and being with me today and listening and being part of my dance. I'm touched by your presence. Now, I would like to tell you a very special thing that has come forward, that has happened, is my youngest son has created a documentary on me called Painting the Invisible. He has spent 3 years of his life working on this documentary. And this very day, about 2 hours ago, he posted it on Vimeo. So you can go to Vimeo and find it. You can go to my website and find it, and you click and you will, because of his 3 years of hard work, it is $15 to purchase the film. You can see the trailer for free, which is a 2-minute trailer to give you the idea of the film. And you will feel like you have traveled to the south of France on a spiritual journey. I think you will be, it will be an enjoyable 50 minutes for you to sit with your family and watch what happens in the south of France as a painter. There's also these paintings that I'm sending to Lillian for the Olmsted that you can look at. And I think this competition week is exciting to see all the new work coming out. I really don't think that we 30 artists are really that competitive. I think that we are more interested in producing the work to give to you than winning a prize. So enjoy the art. It is our dialogue with you. Also
Jill?
on Wednesday, on Wednesday at 2 o'clock in Atlanta time, Eastern Standard Time, I do a live stream of a demo, and I will answer some questions this Wednesday. So, and it's open to questions now too.
We have one question asking what size your canvas for the demo was today.
I usually try to paint on American sizes. But today I painted on a French size because I'm getting ready for a show here at Le Pigonnet in Aix. It's a 5-star hotel, and the show will start in a few weeks. So I painted on a French size that will be easily framed by my French frame. So it's 25 inches high and 20 inches wide.
Oh, okay.
But it can easily be transformed into a 20 by 24, which is what I do sometimes. Because I always unstretch my canvases. I take all the staples out of the canvases and roll them up and send them to my framer, JFM in Atlanta. He restretches the canvases and sends them to California, New York, wherever they need to go, restretched and framed.
And one more question. Do you listen to music when you paint?
Not when I'm painting in the landscape. I need to open my senses and really be able to hear the wind, which I find is for me like the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I feel that the wind brings forward the sound of the reeds of the wheat swishing together, and the smell of the earth, and the reeds of the garlic swishing together and bending the cypress tree into a new form. All of those things are so important when I'm out in nature. When I'm in my studio, then I really enjoy having music played while I'm listening, and I feel that it helps me enter into the dance, and the brushstroke can even be part of what I'm listening to. The direction of the brushstroke, the gesture, the vitality of the brushstroke can come. So I could be listening to classical, to Chopin, Beethoven, Mozart, or I could be listening to Janis Joplin. and that could affect my brushstroke.
And finally, we have heard from several people that have either you have been their counselor or they were at camp with you. And the general question is, have you painted many scenes around your camp from Lookout Mountain? The
I
gym
did a workshop.
specifically.
Yeah, I've painted the gym, and the gym was actually bought by Marcia and Phil Hurt and Sarah Hurt for camp because I did a workshop in October of 2017. I did a 4 or 5 day workshop at Camp DeSoto, and Marcia and Phil would really like to offer the workshop again. And we were just talking about it this winter about offering a future painting workshop at camp. It was just unbelievable to go back to the mountain after all those years. But I do not have, since I do not paint from photographs and I must be present, then I've just got to go one summer. Maybe that's an idea, is to go one summer when camp is open. And that brings me to tell you all also that I wrote a book, and it's called Art, Soul, and Destiny. And it's all of my work for a 30-year retrospective of my work, plus my poetry, prose, and letters and autobiographical writings, and also writings about the creative process. It's a 180-page book, coffee table book that you might enjoy,
Wow.
especially if you went to Camp DeSoto or Sweetbriar. It's very much talks about the mountain and how much the mountain has meant to me.
Well, you're going to have a full workshop if you do it, I can tell you. Lots of hellos.
Yay! The documentary that my son did also speaks a lot about the mountain and Camp DeSoto, and so it will have great meaning for anyone who went to Camp DeSoto, or for people who go to Highlands or people who go to the mountain. Wherever they go, I think that it will have meaning for people who love the mountain.
Well, I am blown away, inspired, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your soul, your spiritual path, beauty of eye and mind and ear. And I feel like I'm in there with you. I think we all have felt like we've had a lovely conversation with you, Jill. And we are just so grateful for your time and your wisdom and all that you share with us. It's just been a very rich, rich thing, and we've all enjoyed it. So thank you.
May I just say one more thing? Is
Sure.
that I did enter my painting into the Olmsted competition, and it was the moon, called the flower moon, of the month of April. And I was very influenced by Vincent van Gogh and his Starry Night when I went out on our hillside and painted the moon looking down on the village of Gardanne. And I thought that I would mention that because you can go and see that Jill Steenhuis Starry Night.
Wonderful. So I hope everyone will take advantage of that. Go visit the Olmsted Plein Air Invitational website. We'll see more work of Jill's, see the Starry Night. And also, we are recording this. We wanted you to know that this will be available on Jill's website and the Olmsted Plein Air website, and also the comments. Jill, we will get those to you as well, because a lot of people that you know have been here and have sent you love and admiration. So, Lillian, is there anything else? Anything else? If not, we'll say adieu.
Adieu.
And until next time.
Until next time.
All right.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye.